Hello, welcome to Backyard Cigars, and happy Halloween to all of you. Today, or tonight, I actually have something a little different than the norm. As you can see, it has a flat head, which is often referred to as the Frankenstein cap. This is ROMA craft tobacco. Neanderthal genetic deformity, and it measures in at 4.5 by 52 ring gauge. It's a small cigar, but there's a lot of story in this cigar. So the story goes that Skip Martin, co-founder of ROMA Craft, wanted to create a cigar that would be completely different from anything he's ever had or seen. He teamed up with Esteban Tisla in Nicaragua. Nicasueño Farms is where I believe they manufacture these cigars. But this cigar is very diverse. You see, it employs tobacco from 4 different countries. Originally, there were some reports that the wrapper was a San Andres Mexican wrapper. But if you can look closely, you can see that this is actually a barber pole. That's right, a barber pole. And it's a barber pole mix of Ecuadorian Habano and the Mexican San Andres. Okay? Ecuadorian Habano and Mexican San Andres. Now I say Ecuadorian Habano, but some reports have been that it's actually Nicaraguan Habano with San Andres Mexican wrapper. I'm gonna go with the Nicaraguan Habano only because it just makes more sense to me, being that it's coming out of Nicaragua. The binder is a USA Connecticut Broadleaf binder, and this is where it gets interesting. The blend. The blend is a blend of 3 different countries. You have Nicaragua, and a little bit of tobacco from about 4 different regions in Nicaragua. Condega, Estelí, Jalapa, y Pueblo Nuevo. And then you've got some Dominican Olor. And then you have the granddaddy of the filler, which is Green River Valley Sucker 1, GRS 1. Double Ligero, Connecticut Broadleaf. So it's actually a regrowth of the Connecticut Broadleaf, and it is in fact considered by some a deformity, because while most of the strong Nicaraguan tobacco ranges between 5, maybe 7% in nicotine level, the Green River Valley Sucker 1 actually boasts a 9 to 13% nicotine level. The story goes further into that Skip Martin was messing around with blends, and lo and behold, he discovered that the more double ligero you add of this stuff, the more potent the cigar becomes. Now, that's a given, we know that, but he needed to do it in a very balanced way, which is why he added so many different regions from Nicaragua, and why he included the Dominican Olor. And I've heard other reports that the wrapper was actually not a San Andres wrapper, but that it was a Connecticut Broadleaf wrapper. But it's not. It's actually a barber pole of Nicaraguan Habano, and San Andres Mexican. So the four countries are obviously the United States, Mexico, Nicaragua, and the Dominican Republic. So I'm going to take a break and I'll be right back. I've only taken about 2 or 3 puffs. And the one thing that I can tell you is that the draw is good. And this blend is incredibly potent. It really is a suitable name, genetic deformity. Because I've mentioned before how some people are so interested in trying new things, trying different blends from all over the world, just something different than what we're accustomed to normally. And it's not that we don't see any of the usual suspects here, because we have all of the regions, just about the major regions from Nicaragua. We have the Nicaraguan Habano. We have the Dominican Olor, the famous Dominican Olor. But this Green River Valley Sucker 1, GRS 1, is a bit of a mystery to me. Mainly because I did a lot of research on it, and all that I could come up with is that, yes, it is a genetic regrowth of the Connecticut Broadleaf. It's just higher nicotine, which gives this blend a knockout punch. It makes it even scary. What I'm getting right now is a roasted coffee note, almost burnt. But it isn't undesirable because it is coming in well balanced. There's a bit of bitterness to it, that type of coffee bitterness you get from a dark roast. The aroma is pretty good, I've got to say. It's very good. Very interesting aroma. But as I'm sitting here, and this is an old entrance to this house that was built in 1899, and this entrance is rarely used, and it leads to an underground section of the house. And I generally just don't like being here. It just is not a comfortable place to be. There are possibly some large spiders around here, so occasionally I will be on the lookout for that. There was a large hole in the corner that I had to cover up before I started the review, because God knows what will crawl out of that hole. And I'm doing this here today in the spirit of Halloween, and I'm smoking something that I found to be a treat, or at least I hope it's a treat, because if it's not a treat, then what is it? Incredible smoke output, but I'm also finding that this draw is a little loose. It's very open draw, so I've got to be careful with that. If not, I get a rush of earthy tobacco that is just, I mean, really, for those of us that know high octane cigars, we tend to know we're smoking something rather mild, when it's a true medium, when it's a little strong but balanced. This is strong and balanced, but it's it's abnormally strong. It's delivering this nicotine kick. It's just on another level. A little bit of pepper and a little bit of sweetness I got right there in that puff. So it was a hint of pepper, a little sweetness in the finish. And again, this aroma is really good. I'm enjoying this aroma in this little cubby hole, if you want to call it that. And I'm just gonna smoke on this a little bit more. Be on the lookout for any spiders crawling about, and I will be right back. I think that when we think about genetic deformities, our feelings range from sadness to shock, and we can equate that shock in many ways. A genetic deformity is obviously something that a human being or even an animal can be born with, and it's a sad thing when that happens, but it's also something that we can think of in the form of the grotesque. Think a la the Elephant Man, or just a lot of these genetic deformities that we've seen in the news that can potentially scare us. I mean, depending on the deformity. And I think in this case, the deformity here is this Green River Valley Sucker 1, which I know this is the name of it, but when I think Green River Valley or Green River, I think of a serial killer that had a similar nickname. So that's another scary thing to think of. But seriously, folks, it's about the cigar, and this cigar is just kicking. It is really, really kicking. Incredible smoke output, as I've mentioned more than once. But there's this tobacco flavor that also lingers. And this tobacco flavor is intense. It's strong. It's full of flavor and force. And it lets its print be known. It's just, you're smoking it, and before you get a chance to really appreciate all of the flavors, you're just hit by the strength of the cigar. So I think it's something that I believe should be smoked a little slower, just to let it burn a little cooler and not overheat and influence the rest of the tobacco, being that it's 4.5 inches, but it does have a good ring gauge at 52. So it's giving you a full flavored, full body experience. And this Green River Valley Sucker 1 is no joke. No joke. I mean, I'm going to compare this in terms of strength in the LFD Double Ligero weight class, because it's intense. Spicy notes, pepper notes, slightly sweet finish, great aroma, dark roasted coffee up front. That's the ticket right now. But I'm liking the burn line. The burn line's been behaving. It's been very good. That's a good thing. So a lot of folks like to do a lot of things on Halloween. And one of the things that people do is sit around a campfire and tell ghost stories or just talk about things that scare them. And for some people, the thought of a high octane, double ligero, rare, genetic deformed tobacco seed strain might scare them, because I know quite a few people that always tell me, hey, is that a strong cigar? Because if it is, I don't want any part of it. Either they've gotten sick or they've just had a bad reaction to it, nicotine sensitivity, whatever it may be. Strong cigars do scare some people. And some people have really bad stories about really potent cigars that have really ruined their night, and they want no part of it. So if you're one of those folks, stay away from this cigar. For real, stay away. So here's my scary story for you. A lot of people believe in good versus evil, and they believe in celestial beings, but they refuse to believe in their counterparts. What goes against that? And I was about 25, 26 years old, and I'm laying in my bed, and I lay down and I say to myself, I'm gonna say a prayer, because I feel like saying a prayer. On that given night, I said my prayer, and part of my prayer was, in help to become a better person, to do the right things, to follow God's path, and to just be a good person and abstain from all evil. And as I said this prayer and I finished, I opened my eyes, and on top of me there was this large black figure in a cloak, and it put its arms around me, and it put its hands then on my neck, and it tried to choke and strangle me. So I'm thinking, I'm having a really bad dream, I've got to wake up. But I was awake, and I knew I was awake. So I struggled, and at that point it began to punch me in the chest. Blow after blow on my chest, knocking the air out of me, till finally I was able to whisper the words, God save me. And when I did, it let me go. And when it let me go, I looked up and I saw a flash of light, and the room lit up. And I saw this tall figure just beaming with light, and I couldn't see what it was. But all of a sudden, 7 more of the dark, hooded, black figures ran into the room. And as they approached me, that figure began to burn brighter. And I could see that they were scared, because they all were looking at each other. And they looked at one another and they ran. And I could hear the door to my room slam. And I rolled off the bed. And I'm still thinking to myself, this is a bad dream. This has got to be the worst dream I've ever had in my life. Wake up, Jose. But I was awake. And here is where it got strange. I tried to stand up, and my knees buckled, and I fell to the ground. And I felt pain in my chest. The kind of pain that one feels when they've been punched in the chest. Well, I crawled on my hands and knees, out of that room, up a flight of steps to, at the time, I was with my mother. I was taking care of her. And I got to the top of the steps and I knocked on her door and she opened up and she was shocked. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? And I explained everything to her. And she informed me what I had just experienced was something real. That it existed. That these demonic forces do exist. And that put a lot of fear into my heart in regards to what does and doesn't exist. Monsters are real. Not the way we picture them to be, but they're real. Sometimes they come in different shapes and sizes. Sometimes it's what we least expect. And that's my scary Halloween story for you. And there's no BS to that story. It's the plain, God-honest truth. So as I sit here with this cigar and I contemplate everything that I've gone through in my life and what I've accomplished and what I've failed at, I can sit here and say to myself that I'm content with my efforts. I have maintained my integrity throughout the years. And a lot of that I give credit sometimes to the way I smoke a cigar and I reflect on the day's events and the things that I've done and said and how relaxed I am when I'm smoking a cigar and how I can just go over everything in my mind, even past events. So it's transitioning now. I'm getting more of a sweet tobacco. The espresso note is still there, but it's not that bitter, dark roast espresso. It's a little more subdued. I'm getting light hints of pepper with this cigar. And I gotta tell you, I think they're onto something here. I really do. The aroma is just picking up more and more. It's just a rich, thick, earthy tobacco aroma, and I'm really liking it. It's not every day you see a barber pole with a Maduro leaf. You can barely tell it's a barber pole. I've yet to ash it, and as you can see, it's holding its own. Look, let's talk about the rarity of this blend. This is a blend that incorporates a variety of countries. I'm thinking the Dominican olor is there to provide some balance and some of those sweet notes, and has a lot to do with the aroma. The barber pole aspect with the Nicaraguan Habano, which can be spicy, and the Mexican San Andres wrapper, which is a thick wrapper and tends to give off some sweet notes. So you get a little sweet and spicy there. The Connecticut Broadleaf binder can't be understated because it provides a little bit of depth to the blend. And then when you look at the the different regions from Nicaragua that are represented here: Condega, Esteli, Jalapa, Pueblo Nuevo. I mean, it's just very creative. It's creative. But let's not forget the Green River Valley, Sucker Run. It's definitely a monster in its own right because it adds a potent feel to this cigar, one that you don't normally feel in a lot of cigars. And the ash just came off, and I think it's time to end my review. This has been a treat, not a trick, and it has delivered with opening statements of dark, at times bitter, roasted coffee, espresso notes, and then pepper notes, spice notes, transitioning to a sweeter cigar, which still has hints of pepper and spice, but developed a softer, sweeter espresso note, still dark roasted, but just softer. And at 4.5 inches by 52, you can't judge it by its size because this is a monster in its own right. Very interesting blend, very creative blend. I'm going to do this again in the near future because I liked it. I don't think it's an everyday cigar. You got to be in the mood for this. I had a very big meal. But I thank you for watching. And on this Halloween, I say happy Halloween and be safe. Take care. Until next time on Backyard Cigars.